Hey guys, Ron here, and you know what a tier list is. I hope you know what a Pokemon is, and unless you've been living under a Regirock, you know that there are more than 100 new Pokemon for me to rate. Keep in mind that my opinion on these Pokemon is always elevated as a generation progresses. I mean, a few years ago I made my Gen 8 Pokemon tier list, and about half of those Mons deserve to be raised a tier or two. I mean, the entire D tier can easily be moved up to C. The more I learn about individual Pokemon and see art and media containing them, I fall more in love with them. I mean, I already have different opinions on many of these new Pokemon compared to like a week ago. The order within each tier can definitely change like tomorrow. But let's begin with D tier. These are Pokemon that I dislike. I can justify some of their concepts, but I think their execution is heavily flawed. The only Pokemon on the list that I hate is Pawmot. I do not know what possessed them to evolve Pawmi into the same thing twice. It's literally just an elongated Pawmi with hair. It's not more monstrous or mature looking. It doesn't even have any additional concept. Even Vanillush is a single cone and Vanillux is a double cone with a wafer. This is the most pointless Pokemon ever. It's uncanny. As if someone interpreted the design of an adult as a stretched out baby. Like its head is bigger than its pre-evolved form. That never happens. Next is Tatsugiri. It's cute and I like the concept, but I don't like how simple the execution is. The eyes are too artificial and flat, and the shape is rudimentary. It looks like a bootleg Pokemon, honestly. And finally, Bramblin. I think I get the idea that it's supposed to look like a cage for the souls that are trapped inside it, and it's very appropriate in the setting you find it. It's cool encountering it in the overworld, but it's the most basic design you can ever come up with for such a highly anticipated concept. Hey, Future Ron here. You see how fast my opinions change? So I kind of like Tatsugiri and Bramblin a bit more. I'd move them up to C tier nowadays. Still not good Pokemon in my opinion, but definitely entertaining. Now we have the C tier. These are Pokemon that I don't dislike, but their flaws definitely make them below average for me. My final opinion of them is fairly neutral though. Glimmet's a thing. The concept is fine, I just don't think it has any personality. I have no desire to train one. Frigibax is the ugliest pseudo-legendary I've ever seen. I don't know why it was necessary to give it an ugly face. It could have easily been cute. Is it because like baby Godzilla is ugly? Bellibolt. In the past, Pokemon with good concepts like this would be pretty clever. It's a frog, but it's rendered like a blob. The fake eyes just look like eyes. Like they're not incorporated or implemented naturally. It does not look like something you would find in the wild. It just looks like a corporate design. Something the company's made to sell toys, which is a lot of these, but at least the other ones look cool. Satotl is kinda cute, but in many ways it looks unsettling. With its wide eyes and wide mouth, it's hard to fall in love with this. But deep down it's still pretty cute. Same with Capsakid. Like, it's close to being cute, but its proportions they're creepy. Its beak is too tiny, its eyes are soulless, it runs around like a little menace, which is funny, but it's annoying. Then there's Strudel, another borderline cute Pokemon, but ultimately creepy Prevo. It even has the same annoying buck tooth that Capsakid has. It looks like a cursed child. But I do like the color scheme and the little paintbrush hair. At least Squawkabilly has a pompadour and pretty colors. Its concept works. A gang of parrots that are kind of racist against their other colored flocks it's an actual idea at least. But it's still too simple for a design for me. Probably the design I think of the least in this gen. This one's very hard. This was hard to put on the list, honestly. Tandemaus and Household. I mean, if Dunk Trio gets a pass, this one does too. I don't hate the concept. It's very wholesome, and in the end, it's really, really cute. And I love every single piece of art that I see online of it. It's just the most minimal design I've seen on a Pokemon. It's the most featureless mouse that anyone could draw. So it's like, what makes it a Pokemon other than that there's two of them? At least design-wise. Concept-wise, I like it. Glimmera is pretty. But again, there's no personality here. I liked it more once I found out its origins in Area Zero. It gets a pass for being mysterious. At least Brambleghast has a face that I think is really well done. I just can't be excited for a literal tumbleweed. I'm sure I'll like it more once I see it in various forms of media though. Like, I have positive feelings about it, but it's still like one of the most disappointing families of all time for me. Flamigo. Originally I was pretty disappointed with the idea of a literal flamingo as a Pokemon. But then I warmed up to the name, and eventually the concept. It's basically a lawn flamingo that is super aggressive. But the thing is that, like, Toucanon has a more developed design, so I like it way more. But this is as simple as they could have made it without pissing me off. So I don't hate it. And I'm liking it more and more every day. I just have to get over the whiplash of a literal flamingo in Pokemon. Like, at least Toucanon has a face that a toucan doesn't usually have. It has a very human, angry face. Like, those eyes, there's something intelligent about that, while Flamigo literally looks as intelligent as a normal flamingo. What makes it a Pokemon? Mastiff, for a dog Pokemon, is not really that cute. Its perpetual snarl isn't appealing, and its blonde streak is unpleasant. Still a dog though, so I don't hate it. And finally, Spidops. I like how this Pokemon moves in the game, like when it uses its threads. Its concept is very clear from its animation, and it makes total sense, but Spidops looks like it's made from a basic tubes and spheres instead of an actual animal, almost like a 3D model that wasn't fully sculpted. I'll probably change my mind a bit once I see it in 2D. B tier time. These are good Pokemon, just average in terms of how much they entertain me. They can all use some improvement, but as they are, I still think positively of them, and I enjoy their presence. Tinkatink is ugly cute, definitely my least favorite of the family, still a neat concept. Time for Pawmi and Pawmo. They're cute, and that's really it. At least Pawmo standing up is some kind of evolution to its concept, and it's still cute, which is nice, which I can't say for its final evolution. Like, the final evolution is just creepy because the head is too big for its body, and it's just a stretched out Pawmi, and it doesn't add anything to the concept. Like Pawmot, what's the difference between a Pawmot and a Pawmo in terms of concept? Nothing. While Pawmo, I know it's probably the most unnecessary, but Pawmo technically has a different concept than Pawmi because it stands up. That's the only difference, and it's not ugly like Pawmot, so I still put it in the same tier as Pawmi. Tadbulb is clever and cute, but not overwhelming in any way. The entire Lechonk family is good. Lechonk's Dex entry definitely alludes to the concept of its evolved forms, so it wasn't disappointing for me. It's cute, and its evolved forms are kind of pretty. They're boring, but most early normal types are kind of boring. Now, I give the Dunsparce a pass for trolling us. Giving a pathetic Pokemon a highly anticipated evolution that ends up being the most unimpressive progression, it's kind of funny. The dud in its name makes sense. It's not like Game Freak was lazy, they actually pulled a pretty funny joke. Klawf is intimidating and monstrous, but relatively basic. The Rev-of-Room line is finely executed, I can't really complain. An engine Pokemon would always look weird. They did a good job for what the concept is, I just simply didn't want an engine Pokemon. Dolliv is very pretty and cute, but relatively boring. It's one of the most uninteresting humanoid grass types, but nothing offensive at all. Now, all three Tauros forms are kind of supposed to be here, but this tier list didn't have one, so they're not visually present on the tier list. They're technically better than Cantonian Tauros, but still just black Tauros, so that means we're definitely still in the B- territory. Sandy Shocks is super weird. I like it though, but I can't say it's even close to the coolest Paradox form. I guess it's the least cool. Iron Bundle is more palatable to me, and it has great animations. The concept of a robot Santa is already natural to me, thanks to Futurama, but it's the most robotic of the future Paradox forms. But that's kind of the point. Now we're no longer in B- territory, because Greavard and Handstone aren't bad at all. Greavard is cute, especially in the Ghost Gym. You know that scene where it's dancing around. And Handstone is a bit cooler, now that it's more skeletal. I love how they're implemented in the overworld, I'm just not sold on how seamless the design looks, because it's still like a dog with an object on its head. Dondozo doesn't really do anything wrong, I guess, and its interactions with Tatsugiri is entertaining. It's simply too basic of a catfish to say it's anything special. The fact that it has those headband scales doesn't really do anything for me. But they're cool. Tarantula I like, maybe more than the average. Like, the concept of a spider and a ball of thread is cute to me. It's as high as you'd expect something like this to be on the list though. Fluttermane is alright. I think Misdreavus is more appealing though, because this just looks like an ancient Misdreavus. It's not too creative. Still pretty. Brute Bonnet is a more monstrous Amoonguss. The design is as appealing as normal Amoonguss really. Still cool though, because at least Screamtail has a different set of powers than Jigglypuff, but it's just a more feral looking Jigglypuff. Because I don't understand the critiques of the future Paradox forms all having a similar concept, when a lot of the past forms are also basically more feral looking versions of their present forms, which is all just the same concept as each other. Still a big fan of Paradox forms though. That's why a lot of them are in B. Flittl's really cute. Like, I like the idea of a floating, frilly, round chick. The personality is quite appealing. Iron Jugulis is the most unchanged Paradox form. It has zero concept, but it's still a Hydreigon, and those are so cool, so it's not like worse than Klawf. We'll talk about Gimmighoul's roaming form soon, but its chest form is a bit less cute. Still a good Pokemon. Knucklestack and Garganicle are fun. I never knew I wanted a Minecraft Pokemon. They're not my favorite shape though, and I think they have too many different shades of brown. Still super entertaining for me. Goldengo. It doesn't feel like a Pokemon at all, but most ghosts get a pass for their outrageous concepts, I guess. I usually hate Pokemon that are literally one color. I mean, there aren't really any Pokemon like that, but it's a gimmick Pokemon. It's supposed to break the rules. Chi-Yu is my least favorite of the Treasures of Ruin. It's a unique quartet. I'm down with the concept of a cursed flaming fish, and I think its body is artistically creative. But literally my only problem is that the Magatamas swirling around its eyes look tacked on. They could have been its fins or scales instead, but in the current configuration, it just undercuts how epic this Pokemon's lore is. Like, I like it, that's why it's in the good tier. Charcadet is cute, and I like its color scheme. I just think it's a little too detailed for a tiny Pokemon. Like, too many lines and patterns in such a small humanoid body. Very rare do you see that in Pokemon. Quaxwell and Crocalor are the definition of awkward middle stages, honestly. I don't dislike them in any way. I don't fault them for being unfinished designs. In fact, I think the egg on the sombrero on Crocalor is genius. That's why it's technically slightly above Quaxwell. Earthworm is a good concept. A steel earthworm that looks like a train is pretty tight. I also like how its legs come out of the windows of said train. I just think its eyes are too cartoony. It would definitely go up a tier if the eyes weren't so goofy. Scovillain is so close to being awesome. I like the idea of its two heads, and it looks crazy and villainous. I would have simply preferred its eyes to not look hollow, and its body to not be so monotonous. Like, it's all just green, and it's like a different color green. Like, a red midsection would have helped break up the uniform green. Like, even I don't want that much green in the body. Palafin's hero form is a bit awkward looking, despite the fact that I absolutely love the concept and personality. It's disproportionate and toy-like, but it still works for me. Like, I enjoy this. Bombardier doesn't really have any flaws, in my opinion at least. I originally thought it was too simple, because it's a stork that carries things in a pouch, which is, definitely not a Game Freak concept. But the idea of making it a sinister dark type that drops boulders in its apron is a funny juxtaposition on such a maternal concept. It's also underratedly very pretty. Like, if you ever see it up close, it looks very good. And finally, Wattrell is adorable. It reminds me of Tailo, and I think both are perfectly fine. Exactly what I expect such a Pokemon to look like. B+ tier is for Pokemon I really like, slightly above average Mons that bring me joy. Cyclizar is neat. I've been known to be a fan of green lizard Pokemon, and it's a clever minimalist version of its paradox forms. Love the idea of a lizard Pokemon's dewlap looking like a wheel. Titan's badass. I've always wanted a land whale Pokemon, and while I originally thought that it was too complicated, I've grown fond of its texture and its patterns, spikes, and color scheme. Reller is cute. Its Muppet face caught me off guard though, but honestly, it gives it even more personality. It's a very simple idea, but how it moves in the game is really fun. It adds to the concept a lot. Nibble is adorable. It's kind of what I wanted in a Grasshopper Pokemon Prevo. Sleek, yet cool. Veluza took some time to get used to, but I'm totally down with the idea of a fish that fillets itself. Its fillet-away form is completely unique and adds so much to the concept. I just wish we saw it more often. Wug Trio is more fun than a Doug Trio, so it's a B+. I like how all three heads are coming out of a rock instead of from the ground. I just wish their colors were a little less basic. Maybe like some stripes would help, but their appeal is still intact. I'd say I like Toedscruel as much as a Tentacruel, and I like Tentacruel. It's less creative than I would have wanted, but it's still very entertaining in the game, and the idea of a mushroom that looks like a jellyfish is still genius to me. Tinkatuff is when the line starts getting pretty brilliant. I'm all for this. Leagues better than its Prevo. It looks cute and tough. Love the ponytail and colors. I thought Gimmighoul was cute when it was first revealed, but I fell in love with it after constantly being pleasantly surprised whenever I found one in the overworld. It's not the most creative design, but it definitely has one of the absolute best implementations and execution in game. Finizen is one of the cutest Pokemon in the entire generation. It's only below A because it's not like there's anything creative about the design. But I guess the whole point is that it's an unassuming denizen. I'm just very glad we finally have a bottlenose dolphin Pokemon. It delivers. And Paladin Zero form would make no sense anywhere else. A- time! These are great Pokemon I consider some of my favorites in the region. Above average Pokemon in the grand scheme of the franchise too. But not my ideal Pokemon. Just ones I think are successful. Like, now it's time for Pokemon that I would recommend to people who haven't seen them before. Darkspun and Fidough. I already liked Fidough. I love the mixture of cute and just brain dead. Like, the boy looks lost, but then it's baked and delicious looking when it evolves. It's exactly what it should be, I guess. I'm not a big fan of food-based Pokemon, yet this is definitely my favorite. It looks so appetizing yet natural. Mabosstiff gets a slight edge after Arven's story though. I like how it looks like a dilapidated dog, an old mob boss, but like dangerous gang leaders, it's incredibly dangerous when provoked. Like, it looks super creepy in the wild. I love that. Artibax should have been the first form of our new pseudo-legendary line. It's a Pokemon I immediately wanted to train once I saw it. I like Pokemon, so I like Kilowattrel. It's just a classic looking concept that kind of feels nostalgic using one. It's not the most over-the-top electric bird Pokemon, but its color scheme, impressive size, and expanding throat when it attacks are all extraordinary enough. Espathra was far from what I expected an ostrich Pokemon to look like, but it makes total sense. I think it's gorgeous. I'm surprised by how pretty I think it looks. I love Pokemon that are both intimidating and dazzling. Kind of like Slitherwing. It's great. Amazing color scheme, and seeing it stand up makes me smile, but I'm a huge Volcarona fan, so it's not like I like it more than a Volcarona. which is like an S tier Pokemon for me. Our Balava was completely unexpected. I thought we were gonna get another hyper feminine grass type Pokemon, and we ended up with like a divine looking elegant goddess olive tree. I have no complaints, other than that I do wish it was way more emotive, but I guess that's kind of the point. Grafaiai is very well designed Pokemon. The gas mask and hoodie look is super clever, as well as the concept. Fuecoco and Quaxly are great starters. When they were first revealed, they didn't really do much for me, but with context and after clearly seeing their fully fleshed out personalities, I can say that they're as good as the average starter Pokemon, all of which are above average Pokemon for me. I'm just a big starter fan. Time for A tier. These are Pokemon I think are amazing for various reasons. Toadscool. This is the most entertaining Pokemon in the overworld of Paldea. I would have watched it run for hours. The idea of a walking tentacle is hilarious. I also just really like mushroom Pokemon, I think. That's why I really like Knackley. Like, it's not an actual mushroom, but like a little Minecraft Mario mushroom looking rock salt crystal. It's just so cute. I would love a plush or figure of this, like on my desk. It's so fun finding them around Paldea. The name is very nice too. Wiglet! I guess regional fakes are hilarious. Like, I love the introduction of convergent evolution in Pokemon. This is way more clever and entertaining than Diglett on its own. Tinglu! I don't know. Something about a giant pot on a moose is funny to me. The fact that the pot is also its antlers is well designed in my opinion. It looks legendary, like an earth elk. Very imposing and ancient looking. Amazing lore as well. Armarouge, it's a cool Pokemon, can't deny it. It's not my favorite of Chargadet's Evos, considering ketchup and mustard is one of my least favorite color combinations ever. But the Psychic Blaster shields are creative. I like cool Pokemon, what could I say? Sprigatito. It's the starter I chose. I'm not gonna pretend like it wasn't. I can't help but think you can't make a better grass cat than this. It's not like it's a genius concept or design, but there's literally nothing I dislike about this Pokemon. And everything it does I enjoy. It's a freaking green cat. I'm gonna like it. And it's finally time for all 3 starter evolutions. I have to admit, I'm simply a huge fan of the category that is starter Pokemon. The idea of a Pokemon sidekick is simply my favorite thing ever. They're not perfect, but in my opinion, they all have a balance of strengths and weaknesses that make them all super appealing in my eyes. For example, Quaquaval is exactly what I expected. Color, proportion-wise, this is what I kind of knew it was going to be from a Quaxly Evo. The colors are great. The personality is fierce. It's a bit too flamboyant in battle. Like, it moves a little too much, but I still love what they did with it. I just make its butt a bit smaller, just a tiny bit. Skeledirge, on the other hand, was completely unexpected. I knew it would be a quadruped, but its concept is off the walls. It's definitely the most clever of the 3, and the idea of a starter with its own sidekick is so fresh. The little firebird makes total sense for an alligator to have, and its various Latin inspirations are really cool. Definitely the most complete of the starter Evos. And finally, my partner, Meowscarada. I always knew this thing would stand up, so it was far from surprising. I also had a feeling that it would have a mask, and I'm totally down for a masked magician cat. Originally, more color would have been my preference, but I like the contrast of its light fur and dark leaves. Its scarf cape is so cool, and it's full of the exact kind of personality I want in my starters. I just wish the mask was a bit smaller, but who cares? I don't love it as much as its direct Prevo, but I definitely consider myself a Masquerada fan. Honestly, the next 5 are all Paradox forms. I'm a fan of both future and past forms. I already like Hariyama, so making one that has electricity visibly flowing through it and having hovering hands, it's something I'm gonna like even more than a normal Hariyama. Despite how uncanny many of you guys think that Iron Thread's face seems to be, I think the literal design of it is amazing. Conceptually, it's more creative than Ancient Donphan, but just like everybody else, I like the design of Great Tusk more. They nailed what we expected an Ancient Donphan to look like. And just like most of you, I think Feathered Dinosaur Salamence that harkens back to its Mega is one of the greatest things ever. But I'm a huge fan of Iron Valiant as well. I always love the interpretation that in the far future, gender is more blurred. So a non-binary mix of Gallade and Gardevoir that has both a dress and hand sword staff is as good as it gets. Obviously not my ideal Pokemon since it's like a robot, but that's why it's not in the A+ tier. But for what they were going for, it's amazing. And then you have a Psychic Bug. I love the colors, designs, and concept of Rapska. It looks mystical and paranormal, like how scarabs were viewed in ancient times. I wish I used one on my team. Chien-Pao is objectively cool. The idea of a saber-toothed leopard weasel with literal sword tusks is out of this world. The literal sword is actually one of the coolest swords I've ever seen in fiction, and the color scheme of this beast is wild. It's so fun finally having sub-legendaries again. And finally, we have Tinkaton. I totally understand why this is the most popular Pokemon in Paldea. The contrast between this little cute gremlin and the giant metallic hammer it uses to commit crimes is fascinating. It's cute, badass, cool, and entertaining. Everything you want in a Pokemon. Its personality is so happy-go-lucky too. It's such a character. A+ tier. Perfect Pokemon. Pokemon I think are among the highest tier. Smoliv. This is exactly how I design a cute little olive Prevo. It's round, anxious, and 100% baby. It's also so damn small in the overworld, I just want to pick it up and hug it. Clodsire was completely unexpected. I've been known to be somewhat of a Quagsire blasphemer, but this kind of fixes a lot of what I thought was underwhelming about Quagsire. Wooper is one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, and this is a worthy successor. There's nothing to dislike about it. King Gambit. I'm a huge Bisharp fan as well, and they've once again outdone themselves. This is one of the most over-the-top Pokemon in the entire world, and it kind of makes so much sense. I never knew I needed this. The fact that it sits down on its hair is... I mean, who comes up with this stuff? It's such a natural progression. King Gambit has a little too many details, but that's kind of the point. It's ornate, like a real samurai. It's so surreal finally getting a final evolution that completes this chessboard. Now, I'm one of those weird guys that likes Wo-Chen the most of the Ruinous Quartet. The way the swirling wooden tablets are animated in the game definitely sealed the deal. I never knew I needed a sentient pile of leaves in the shape of a snail. The fact that it's an evil legendary is priceless. And now it's time for more Paradox Pokemon. I genuinely think that Iron Thorns is one of the coolest things I've ever witnessed in these games. Obviously I like its colors, but the way it lights up, the fact that its horns pop out of its back, and the Mecha Godzilla and Pokewood Studios references were immaculate. It's beautiful. And I think Iron Moth was able to capture the majesty of one of my favorite Pokemon. It makes total sense. Its solar panel-like wings are such an obvious idea for a Paradox future Pokemon. I don't know why they wouldn't do anything else. I think those who don't like this are simply those that just don't like the entire idea of future Paradox Pokemon being robotic. But it's a genuine future possibility. And the possibility of this bleak reality made the climax even more scary. Farigiraf was a perfectly designed, highly anticipated evolution. It's so awesome to finally have a proportionate giraffe Pokemon. The tail becoming a hoodie helmet that protects its head is super innovative. Such a fun Pokemon. Beautiful yet intimidating. Excalibur. I'd say it's another worthy pseudo-legendary, so an automatic A+. That's not even that high. There are a few pseudo-legendary Pokemon that I consider S tier, but it just seems right. Ice-faced Godzilla with a Spinosaurus sword spike. Have I called any of the previous Pokemon epic yet? Because this one is definitely what I associate with the word epic, as well as Wooper. Pretty epic. But making Wooper brown doesn't really change the fact that Wooper is one of my favorite Pokemon ever. So this is still A+. Annihilate is one of the best cross-generational evolutions we've ever gotten. It expands on the lore that we already kind of anticipated and exceeded expectations. I mean, 2 years ago, I kind of made a ghost-type Primeape evolution with a similar concept, and this one's absolutely way better. So I feel attached to it. Same with Cerulege. I'm not going to deny it. I love cool Pokemon that cut. Just give a Pokemon some kind of blade and I'll worship it. Even more so if it has purple fire and an armor. Sure, it's literally like the edgiest Pokemon in existence, but I'm not above that. Training one was a privilege. And finally, it's time for S tier. Just my personal favorite Pokemon that are now part of my top 50 favorite Pokemon of all time. Lowkicks is magnificent. It's the exact kind of Pokemon I was waiting to see during the hype season leading up to the release of these games. Everything about it is like the definition of cool. I couldn't be more proud to have trained one. I'll probably use it again in a second playthrough, and I hope to see it again in future generations. Koraidon and Miraidon are together. My third favorite legendary Pokemon. I decided it. Even before the game was released, I thought this duo was exceptional. Automatic 9 out of 10s within a minute. What made them like 11 out of 10 was bonding with my Miraidon in game and seeing all the cutscenes of Koraidon. I love the idea of actually being able to form a connection with the Boxar legendary throughout the game. And I also love the idea of paradox forms. So I love literally everything about them. More of this, please. But my absolute favorite Pokemon of Generation 9 is Floragato. This is a Ron Pokemon. It's now in my top 25 favorite Pokemon. The design, personality, colors, and animation are all perfect. It's such a cute yet cool design. I can't get enough of its stylish leaf scarf and flower yo-yo. The flower yo-yo is so damn charming. It's everything I want in a Pokemon and more. And I hope you got the same enjoyment from this video. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe for more Pokemon videos, and make sure to follow me on Twitter, where I constantly talk about my opinions, and consider clicking the join button or becoming a patron for rewards like seeing my videos days early, my Patreon Discord, and discounts on my merch. I'll see you guys very soon.